Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Enolia and I come to you here with beautiful Sarah Chave. Am I pronouncing that correct?
It's actually Sarah Chave, but what's really
Chave.
interesting is I recently moved to Portugal
Ah,
and everyone pronounces my name Chave. So it actually means tea in Portuguese. So I'm
yes.
used to it.
That actually makes sense for me because here I am in Angola, okay? And so with the Portuguese all around me, because this is a Portuguese speaking country, I would say it that way. But Sarah Chave, and I'm so excited to have you here. I'd like for you to take a moment to introduce yourself.
Sure, I'd just like to thank you, first of all, Enolia, for inviting me to talk with you today. It's just absolutely delightful. I always love chatting with you. So my name's Sarah Chave, and I've been an energy medicine practitioner for about 20 years. I work with consciousness-based energy medicine. So for me, it's really about those consciousness shifts in our awareness that we can make in order to heal ourselves and come into more balance with ourselves that I'm interested in. I'm right now in Portugal. I decided to move myself and my family a couple of years ago here in order to explore a more sustainable way of living. So that's kind of part of the consciousness shifts that I personally are going through at the moment, kind of moving into simplicity, moving into connection with the earth, moving into a more empowered way of living where we can have our own resources, where we have our own water supply, where we source our own food, and grow our own food. So that's very much the journey that I'm on at the moment.
And a beautiful journey it is. I'm so excited to have you here, and there's so much to talk about. For those of you who don't know Sarah, she is a woman of great depth. So if you have the opportunity to speak with her, get to know her, you will truly, truly be enlightened. So let's just talk about one of the topics that we had spoke about earlier, and I really would love to dive into, is just this whole fact about awakening the inner soul, awakening the inner heart, and being conscious, because we kind of use that term consciousness back and forth quite frequently. And I really think that people don't have a grasp on what being conscious means. So I'm going to throw the first one out at you, and then I'll give like my analogy and my thoughts about that too. But why don't we talk a little bit about consciousness? What does that mean to be conscious?
Well, first of all, I think it's a journey. I think it's a process. And in a way, I feel that these times have been kind of bringing everyone to that place, where the potential to awaken is there. And the reason I feel that's happening is because of the pandemic, we it was kind of like a global kind of identity crisis in a way, because what a pandemic is in a way is it's a challenge to the immune system, and it's our immune system that holds our sense of self. Because when we work with if you think of immunity, we have this ability to distinguish what is self and what is not self. So the immune system is meant to attack that which is not self and really nurture and nourish that which is self. So in a way, a pandemic is kind of like a failure on the level of self, because the immune system is showing that the immune system is not working properly, because we've all got the ability to ward off, as it were, viruses, if we come into ourselves and we have a lot of self-worth and trust our path and trust our immune systems. So in a way, that indicated that there was some kind of collective kind of identity crisis, or some kind of not valuing of self going on. Also, during the pandemic, what we found was that a lot of the things that in our lives that have been there our whole lives, things like perhaps jobs, different just different ways of being in life were suddenly kind of put to question. So, for example, we were all put in isolation. And what we found was that, first of all, it took tremendous endurance to survive those times. So first of all, we found that we're all survivors, but that can sort of activate the fight or flight nervous system. So we're living out of that kind of survival mode. So part of my journey with consciousness is how can we come back into ourselves in a way that we are kind of more in a being state rather than in a survival state. So it's that kind of coming out of that fight or flight nervous system into rest and healing nervous system. So for me, that's a big part of the journey. The other thing that happened was very much that basically, you know, we had to let go of a lot. So we were letting go of loved ones, perhaps letting go of jobs. Even during the lockdown, we needed to let go of that physical touch, you know, being in isolation. So in a way, we went through kind of a collective grieving process. And for me, it's about, in that journey of reassessing ourselves on all those different levels that I've talked about, there's a huge potential, because in that letting go, there's a potential for something new to arrive, for something new to awaken within us, in terms of new ways of being, in terms of, you know, in terms of our external world, but also in terms of our internal world, like that reflection on who we really are. So for me, that's the journey, the awakening process that we're being put through as a collective at this time.
I think that's phenomenal discussion in terms of the multiple levels. And I want to bring it to a simplistic levels for those people who aren't in the healing modality or any kind of healing modality. It's about being present. So there are times when we're sitting here, like I could be sitting here listening to you, and then my mind wanders off. And if my mind's wandering off, I'm not present. So therefore, I'm listening to you and I'm going through the acts and emotions of listening to you, but I haven't heard a word that you said, you know?
Sure.
And I really
Yeah.
want people to get this. It is that mindless routine of life where you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again. So you wake up, you go to work, you come home, you cook, you watch a little TV, you go to bed, and you do it all over again. And then what happens is that, you know, on day 3, when you're supposed to visit the doctor, you find yourself on your way to work because you're so not present that all you do is go through the routine of what your body and your projection of what you're supposed to do normally does. And you don't even deviate, and you catch yourself going, oh, I was supposed to be somewhere different, and I'm so not present in my body that I do something different. And it was really, really good. And I just want to drive this point home. There was a movie, I can't think of the name of the movie, but it was a movie filmed in black and white. And as each person became present, they started seeing in color. They started seeing little bits and pieces of people in color. Because when you're conscious, then the view changes. When you're conscious, then how you see the world shifts within you. And coming from within you, then everything around you, surrounding you, and external to you shifts and changes in terms of how you see it, how you approach it, how you engage it, how you encounter it, how you receive it. And I love the fact that we can talk about it at all these different levels, because people are waking up. People are realizing, and I love the way that you talk about the pandemic, because the pandemic was a segue to the wake up call, which is, I'm disrupting the routine. You can no longer be not present. You have to take a look at your surroundings. You have to engage the people that are all around you. You can no longer ignore them because you're in the house with them. And guess what? They're right there. They're not going away for the day. And you have to engage the relationship. I think it was so important for this piece to take place, and for this consciousness to wake up. And I think it's powerful. And then what happens is that now that people are awake, they're not quite sure what to take or what to do or how to be or how to sit in it, because this isn't a place that they've been in a long, 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 long time. So what are your thoughts about that?
I love a lot of what you're saying there. So I'm not quite sure which place to pick on first. The idea of seeing in color, I love that. And what's coming up for me is, you know, that idea of what you spoke about, how, you know, during the lockdown we had no choice but to go in, because all those distractions, you know, all that stuff, you know, going out, doing stuff, going to restaurants, the theatre, whatever, just weren't there. So it was that opportunity to come into self-reflection. So and what's interesting is that I think for a lot of people, rather than bringing the color in, it brought the grayness in, you know, that kind of actually being present with what was there, you know, was quite a dark night of the soul in a way. So I love this idea of seeing in color, because I really believe that that's what we've got the potential to do, to kind of switch on that light in the dark in a way, you know. And in a way, that's what a dark night of the soul does. It gives that opportunity to really, you know, be like the lotus flower. So that lotus flowers are just really beautiful, because they rise up through the mud. So it's this idea that it is our life experience, our challenges, you know, the difficulties, that really forms and makes us who we are, makes us really beautiful. So in a way, you know, being in that darkness, being in that place that we all kind of probably had our moments of, certainly in the first lockdown, you know, gave that opportunity to sort of go into the dark. But I love the idea of seeing things in color by shifting our perspective. That really, really resonates with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So here we are, we're awake. We found ourselves looking at things differently. We're more conscious. I'm also finding that a lot of people are now taking a look at themselves inwardly for the first time. And in that inward look, not knowing how to honor the soul, not knowing how to honor the heart, because they've been in this like habitual pattern external to themselves for so long that first look in the mirror is like, this is too much. I can't take it. As a grandmother, as an elder, I love to help facilitate people to help to take that first look and love what they see. And usually that first look is like, no, I don't want to see. I don't, you know, that it's taken aback, because there's no facade in between you and that mirror. There's no filter. And to totally embrace one's totality, one's full self, isn't always easy. And that first encounter of that sometimes is just, you know, overwhelming. How would you navigate that for people as that energetic practitioner that knows that we have to love the totality of self in order to move forward and navigate through life?
I think the thing is that we've always, as a collective, given our power away. You know, we've always looked outside of ourselves for, you know, like we go to the doctor, you know, if we're feeling sick often, or, you know, if we want, we'll go for advice or look for affirmation from someone else. You know, we're needing that from inside. So for me, that shift in looking inside is feeling all those resources within ourselves. So it's like finding our resources. It's like a treasure hunt, you know. It's like, you know, we have all this beauty inside, but we might not know it's there. So, you know, it's like for us to find that, to uncover it, and to really see our beauty, you know, because we're all so beautiful. We really are. We've all got our gifts. We've all got our talents. And I love that the idea, you know, you can only be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
I love that.
Yeah, so you might as well be yourself. You might say, okay, hey, this is me, you know, in all my flaws, all my, you know, this is who I'm. For me, that's a journey into our humanity, because, you know, we're not looking to stand there and be perfect. We're looking there to stand there and be ourselves and enjoy ourselves for who we are, you know, no matter what we're doing, no matter where we are in life, because it takes tremendous courage to do that. So even if we look inside and we don't like what we see, we can like the fact that we've just had the courage to actually do that, because that's really the first step.
It is the first step. And then the journey, you know, I remember just many days in Queens, New York, where I was born and raised, getting up in the morning, hearing the birds chirping as they are now, and the sun coming out and having that brand new day and going, okay, Spirit, I'm here, I'm present, I'm ready. When am I going to get going today? As opposed to, okay, I got to get up. What's going on? You know, oh yeah, I have my routine, and I don't even think. I really cherish those moments of getting up and saying, okay, what's going to get going today? What am I going to accomplish today? What is going to be presented to me new today? What is exciting? How can I contribute to the world today? What is my contribution to the world today? And I don't think those questions are being asked enough within us. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of that is to do with the society that we've lived in. We've lived in a very patriarchal kind of world for many generations, and you know, the view then is you know, the masculine is more kind of about competition, you know, and about what can we get, and this idea of, you know, kind of making our way to the top and trying to get stuff. And part of the consciousness shift that we're going through as a collective is to really move into that heart-based awareness, and you know, the going inside and connecting with our heart, connecting with the earth is a part of that journey. It's enabling us to come into the more feminine, and we're then, you know, then the question is, what can I contribute, you know? So it's coming from a different place, and it's finding those jewels within that we can then, you know, we're all here, anyone that's here at this time is here for a reason, to contribute something really significant, you know, at this time. So it's really nurturing that. You know, I love what you were saying about, you know, going out in the sunshine with the birds, because for me, that's, you know, that's very much part of my journey and part of who I am. I've been very fortunate to work with like a Taoist master for, I've been trained in sort of Qigong and Taoist healing, Master Mantak Chia. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
And yeah, from the Taoist perspective, you know, the heart connection, it's like our commander. So if we make that connection with our heart, and I often do it, you know, like I was out in the sun this morning and I made that beautiful connection with my heart. And if we, you know, we allow that to then feed our relationship with ourselves, you know, like what you were saying earlier about that self-love. But it's for me, it's much more energetic, it's much more organ-based, because then it's working through the whole energy system, it's working through the meridians of the body as well. So it's acknowledging that heart as commander, bringing the love, and then bringing that love and acceptance into other areas of the body as well. So that then what starts to happen is we have this integration between different aspects of ourselves. And if there's an aspect that's perhaps more in shadow, that we have more difficulty with, it enables us to bring that sunshine, that love, that acceptance to that area. So we start to see ourselves, rather than, oh, I don't like that bit, or I wish that, we start to sort of see ourselves as a team, you know, that works together with all the different aspects. So there's much more of an integration there.
So I want to dive into something that you said earlier, just in this conversation, right? You talked about the masculine versus the feminine, and you talked about the fact that the masculine is more in the competitive range, you know, versus the feminine. And I want to share what like the indigenous perspective is on that too, because like for the masculine or even Western versus indigenous, I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that and note that I came up in the corporate way, so of course I came up in the masculine corporate way. We have this thing about always wanting to be on stage, right? And it's like, well, you know, you're competing against one another. That's another thing that you said. And that, you know, we want to be on stage. We want to be center of attention because that's what we've been taught, that makes us successful, that makes us great, is that we stand out and we have to be above the rest, right? So if you even think about how we engage an audience, what do? We do it on stage, right? So that means that I speak, you listen, your voice doesn't count, your voice doesn't say a word. All you can do is sit there and look at me. And then if you have a differing opinion, you have to keep it to yourself, because I have the center stage. I'm the one who's speaking. What you have to say doesn't count, none whatsoever. It is a one-on-many scenario that is very, very restricting. It is not inclusive. And what it does is it pits everybody else against, because what happens is that if you don't agree with that person, you have no way to voice that out as that person is speaking. You know, what that person says, not only whether it's intelligent or not, but it stands because they have the stage. And so that is why I love the indigenous way, which is the circle, you know, and the circle's been there since the beginning of time. And the fact that when we sit in a circle, and the indigenous way is that we allow everyone to speak. No one interrupts anyone else when they're speaking, okay? But everyone is allowed to speak. We can all be viewing the same exact thing, but everybody views it in a different way. Everybody views it in a different way. So as it's viewed in a different way, everybody's voice is heard. It's not a competition. It's an acknowledgement and understanding that there are many roads to the same thing. And we've forgotten that. We have forgotten that there is multiple roads, and that it's okay for those roads to be different, to approach the same thing. With hence is tolerance of one another, right? Because that center stage, you don't have to be tolerant of anything. What I say goes, right? But in that circle, you also have to be tolerant of one another and allow that engagement, listen fully, you know, but nobody's above you, nobody's below you. No one's in front of you, no one's behind you. You're all sitting there side by side, and you're all on even ground. And we've forgotten this. And I wanted to just highlight and emphasize that a little bit more, to understand when we talk about a very, very patriarchal way versus a feminine way. And the key is to come into anything with balance. With balance. It doesn't need to be all one way and all the other way, but just balance and acknowledgement, again, tolerance for one or the other. And that's another thing that we've done in this society, in societal ways, is that, you know, rules have been made that, you know, certain things won't be tolerated because, you know, it needs to be, and this is the way it is, and it's dictatorial. And I love that the youth are coming up and saying, we don't agree with any of this, and we're going to challenge all of it.
Yeah, I love that. Certainly with my work, this is something I'm really exploring at the moment, that this idea of kind of a clean space, because in a way, you know, as a therapist, even that, you know, the idea of practitioner and client sets up that polarization, you know, because the client has all the wisdom and knowledge within themselves, you know, that has that innate ability to hear themselves. So I see my role very much as that kind of facilitator of that, holding that space. And how I've been exploring this in my work, because I've always worked with that on an individual level, but I'm now working with this on a collective level, of really exploring those kind of, you know, exploring those spaces, because we've always done things, you know, from the masculine perspective. It's like, how can we kind of break down all those things and open up new possibilities? So with this group that I'm working with, it's called Creating New Earth. I'm not, when I got told by Spirit to do it, I asked, you know, what's the subject? And I got told there is no subject. You just have to sit in that unknown space and see what arises. So we're all kind of sitting in that space and seeing what arises in each of us in order to co-create and manifest a different future. So I really love this kind of outlook. You know, it really resonates with me. And I just want to share with you this amazing thing that I did recently. I was working with family constellations. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And we did one, it would have been, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, around the global situation at the moment, because I think it was when the war was starting and things like that. And we worked with the different archetypes and held the space. And I was the grandmother. So I'm so interested, because of your role as being the grandmother. I can really resonate, because for that moment I was the grandmother. And what happened for me within this constellation was, in the beginning, I felt like my legs were really weak. And I felt it was very representational of how the old people have been put, their wisdom is not being held, their wisdom is not being respected, and they're disempowered. So I had to move around in the constellation, and I wanted to be right in the center. And it was this idea that comes from indigenous cultures of having the grandmother, the wisdom in the center, this idea. So what was really interesting is where we had the different archetypes in this constellation. One of the archetypes was the coyote. And the coyote energy is this disruptive energy, this playful energy that just so we all I was in the center and the coyote moved me all around and everything, and it was very interesting. And usually in a family constellation, what happens is that you'll stand as child, mother, grandmother, the ancestral line go, and they'll stand supporting you going behind. But in this constellation, we made a circle. And for me, it was very representational of what we're moving into. And it's that honoring of each of us as mother, as child, mother, grandmother, coyote. We all hold these different archetypes within ourselves. So we can be all of that in the circle. And some of us may represent more the grandmother energy, some of us more the child, but that's all of immense value. We need everything. So I really resonated with what you were saying.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Yes, it is. It's a serious responsibility and role too, because and for those who don't know, grandmother is a title. It is a title for elder amongst the indigenous. I just was initiated grandmother, and I had been a protege for like 15 years. Okay, so it's a long journey. And to be able to stand in that responsibility of anyone being able to come to you and speak with you for the wisdom that you hold and the experience that you hold to share, and to work with the community and address the issues of the community and really engage the community, helping them and guiding them in a direction. It's a really important role, and we need to cherish what our elders brought. Remember that you become that next elder. So the fact that we as Westerners have such disregard for our elders. I'm here in Africa, and I sit down and speak with the 101-year-old mother that is still with the family, and the 98-year-old mother that's with the family, that brings such wisdom and such strength and so many stories about their lives that can help us now. We think that everything's different and new, but history repeats itself constantly. It may be different environment and by which it does, but the circumstances and the basis of why it's repeating itself usually remain the same. So yeah, it's a big deal. Go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to acknowledge, you as grandmother, and, the incredible work that you're doing. It's just so incredible. You're setting up this global online conference, and just bringing people together. And I can just feel that it all comes from a really amazing place. And so it feels like you're really honoring that grandmother energy.
Oh, we have to look
beautiful.
at amazing people like you, Sarah. We need to give you a platform to speak, and that's why we're doing that. So to be able, my partner Christina Konya and I are hosting a wellness summit, because healers need a platform internationally to speak, to have acknowledge the work that they're doing, and to share that work with people. It's so important to be able to have people like yourself and others speak on that platform, because you're doing dynamic work, and then someone can see your work and engage you and learn from you, and it's so important. Go ahead, please.
Oh, it's interesting. I have to share something a little bit personal, about this, talking at this global online summit, because I tend to do more discussions than speeches. And I think it's because that you know, it's that co-creation that you know, the idea of being on stage feels a little bit, so it's kind of out of my comfort zone, but I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to just embrace it and you know, go with it, because it is an opportunity to kind of shine that light. And you know, so I value so much that platform, but it feels to me the speech thing feels not where I'm at. I'm much more
Yes.
about the discussion, the
But
co-creation.
I engage you to look at it as a circle, and I engage you to look at it as it'll just be your time to speak to the group, and then we get to capture it and share that with everyone. Because really, how we envision it, it is a circle. It's a circle of wellness people who just bring so many different things to the table and have the opportunity to speak, and each one has a different experience that they want to bring forward and share, and each one should be heard. And we value that. We value what you bring to the table so much. So I'm really excited about it.
I love that reframing, and it's amazing, you know, because that's me being personal about how I needed to
Hmm.
reframe something in order to be able to shine. You know, because as soon as you make it a circle, then I feel much more able to shine than you know, when it was the idea of a speech. So it's this idea of, you know, how can we, each of us, reframe, you know, keep reframing so
Exactly.
that we can come more into our light. And for me, that's very much part of the awakening. So it's that honesty. So, you know, to share that, you know, that actually, you know, you know, talking at the global conference and having a speech was a little bit vulnerable for me, you know, to share that feels quite a little bit vulnerable, but actually it's now enabled me to reframe it. So
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
And that's how I look at it anytime I engage, is that I have an opportunity to talk to children, or I have an opportunity to talk in circle. And how would I talk to you as I would talk to, anyone else in the community? It wouldn't change for me. So to me, even though the audience is a little broader and it might be different cultures, it's still the same conversation, which is wake up, you're needed, it's time to contribute, and acknowledge your gift and move it and bring it forward. And really, I'm saying that to the masses right here and right now, even as we're having this conversation. This is what we need to do, and we need to have that conversation any and everywhere that we can, because those who are going to be attracted to you are going to hear something in you, and they're going to be motivated and inspired by you, and it's important. It's important.
Yeah, and that's what we each have to do. You know, that's part of the awakening process. It's like following the breadcrumbs, isn't it? You know, it's like you know, and having the courage to do that, you know, because it's, if when we're in the alignment, the synchronicities flow. And it is that you know, that path which sometimes can be quite uncomfortable, you know, because we're growing in the process and we're being asked to look at aspects of ourselves and you know, reframe, as it were.
Yeah.
So you know, that's the same for each of us. You know, it's like, how can we make this time an opportunity to really reframe who we are and to come into our own power, you know, and really you know, see the opportunities rather than the obstacles, because it's easy to see the
Oh, yeah.
obstacles in our world at the moment. You know, there's everywhere we look, you know, there's that going on. So it's like, how can we reframe it in a way?
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to leave you with one last question. If you were able to speak to the masses, what is it that you would really want them to know from you?
um I feel it's that you're good enough. You're good
Mhm.
enough right now, who you are. Because it's interesting, you know, in a way, you know, we're talking about awakening and a journey, and it can have this kind of forward motion, can't it? You know, of reaching something. And, you know, and whilst it does, you know, we all have that within us. We all have that divine spark. We all have that awakened aspect. It's already there. We just need to find it. And it's this knowing that, you know, we're already enough. You know, it's not that we need to be anything different or anything. It's just realizing that we're already enough. You know, that's the paradox. So yeah, that's for me. It's like, you're good enough. You don't need to be perfect. You're enough.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think that the last thing that I would want people to think about is dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt, which means to me that if you don't hold a vision for yourself to make your life the path walking to that vision, then what you do is end up living your whole life based on what other people think you should be doing or say that you should be doing, and therefore you're not living your life. So if you're going to go through the iterations of waking up, then hold a vision for yourself and make life that walk and journey to that vision. It's okay, whatever that vision is, and the vision can change, but do it. Don't sit there and just exist in life because then you're asleep. And we need you. We need you awake. So I would leave it at that. So
I love
Sarah,
that. Thank you so much, Enolia. It's been an absolute delight. Will you be putting my
I'm going to
website?
ask you
Yeah,
to share your website verbally, and then yes, I will be putting your
yeah,
website.
because I just love to let people know, if they've resonated with what I've been saying and they'd like to reach out, then please do get in contact either to talk or if you'd like to book into a private session or some of my group sessions, you'll be most welcome to connect. So my website is www.replenishzing.com. So it's replenishing with a Z, replenish zing. So thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I'm going to actually make sure that that's listed in the YouTube that I'm going to upload this to. This is also going to be viewed live, but you will be able to access this via YouTube if you sign up on my YouTube channel. I'll make sure that you have a copy so you can put it on your channel. And then also, if you resonate with anything that I've said, same thing. You can reach me on my website, www.enolia, enolia.live. And also, I have all of the Facebooks and all of that great stuff. So, and my YouTube channel is under Enolia Foti, Foti. So, yeah, easily reached, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for taking the
Oh,
time.
no, I'm grateful. Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I just love connecting with you, Enolia, and I hope that we get the opportunity to connect much more in the future as well.
Absolutely. Thank you again. This was Sarah Chave. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.